Do you struggle selling to price-sensitive buyers? In today's video, I'm going to show you one of the things you can do to be able to help price-sensitive buyers do business with you. My name is Iyore. We train thousands of salespeople across several countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, USA, Rwanda. I'm an author of several books and resources on sales, and I'm featured on lots of media platforms to talk about successful selling. I worked on an organization I was going to target to sell to 20 high net worth individuals. I was able to bring in 21 high net worth individuals to the organization in a single month. I also participated in a sales competition where I won, and I was sent for the World Cup for an all-expense paid trip. I moved to another organization where I was able to double my portfolio by over 100% in just 11 months. I'm CEO for Advantage, and our specialties in Salesforce management. This means work with sales teams, partnering with CEOs and the team leads to help them optimize sales results and get sales results faster and in record time. I'm going to do this using sales templates, toolkits, various frameworks to help our clients achieve their sales results. Ladies and gentlemen, are you dealing with price-sensitive buyers? Every time you sell, people tell you, it's too expensive. What's the price? Before you start talking, they always ask you for the price. I've said it several times, and I'll say it again. Take control of the conversation. It starts by you taking control of the conversation. See, how the conversation starts always affects how it ends. So you want to start it right by making sure that you lead the conversation. Once you mention the price, and because the person is insisting on the price and doesn't seem to want to listen to you and is trying to do everything possible for you to just say the price, ladies and gentlemen, if you follow them and go ahead, or listen to them and go ahead and just say the price, what happens? It goes a long way to affect your credibility. It goes a long way to affect how they perceive your value. Once price is mentioned before value is understood, now I didn't say before value is explained. Once price is mentioned before value is understood, it affects the sale. So you want to make sure that the person understands the value. And that's why you want to start the conversation right. Mr. Prospect, thanks so much for having us here today. My name is, before we start, when we have meetings like this, we like to ask our clients a few questions, just 3 to 4 questions to see how we can be of help to you. Hope you don't mind. Can I go ahead, sir? And he says, yes, go ahead. Then you start to ask your questions. Why are you asking questions? Because those questions give you the position to communicate value. Please remember, value communication is not just talking about features and benefits. Value communication also has to do with the type of questions you ask. Why is asking questions important? Asking questions shows the person that you're the expert, number one. Asking questions helps you extract what exactly their needs are so that you can position your value correctly. If you don't know what their needs are, your value will not be positioned correctly. Out of all the features and benefits you have, how do you know which feature or which benefits to talk about first? How do you know the one to talk about last? How do you know the one which is going to be the most important to this person? How will you know the one to emphasize on? The only way you would know is if you find what we call the red hot button. The red hot button is that particular challenge, that elephant in the room, that one issue that if you move it out of the room, you've done most of the work. It's like the 80-20 rule by Pareto principle. The Pareto principle states that 80% of your output comes from 20% of your inputs. So this means that you have to find what is that major thing that is top priority to this person that will give the leverage in this conversation. You can't know it if you don't ask questions. It's not enough for the client to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you meet a prospect and the prospect says, this is what we need. This is what we want. Just tell us the price. A prospect cannot know what they need. They cannot know what they want. Sorry, let me say this way. They can know what they want, but they can't know what they need. Your goal is to give them what they need and make it a want. What do I mean by this? If you meet a medical doctor, for example, when we talk about selling them, we look at it from the skill sets of consultation. And consultation is practiced by a lot of professionals, the medical doctors, the engineers, the lawyers. If you meet any of these professionals, a dentist, a lawyer, a doctor, financial expert, anybody, and you say, this is what I want, the person who knows their onions will first of all start by asking you questions. Why? Because they want to be sure that you know that this is really what you need. They want to be sure. Because you can meet a doctor and say, doctor, can I have Panadol? I'm having a headache. That's what I need now. And the doctor does his diagnosis and he's done asking you questions. He realizes that what you need is far beyond Panadol. That pain reliever is just going to be a temporary thing. It will not resolve the real issue. And the doctor knows that if you continue in that path, just taking these pain relievers, it could cause you some serious trouble over the long term. It behooves a doctor to do what is right, act like a fiduciary, and insist that this is the path for you to go. This is your role as a salesperson. You are not an errand boy or errand girl. The prospect not supposed to tell you this is what I want and you follow. This is the direction I want and you just go. No, provide direction for the prospects. Help them know that this is the path you want them to follow because this is the path that gives them the results. And you do this by asking questions. And as you ask questions, you educate. So one of the ways you manage and engage price-sensitive buyers, ladies and gentlemen, ask questions and educate. Ask questions and educate. Now, why is this necessary? There are two reasons why a prospect could be price-sensitive. Number one, is either they don't have the budgets. Number two, is either they just love to negotiate and get a good deal. Now, if someone doesn't have the budget, there is room. See, a budget doesn't mean financial capacity. Someone can have the financial capacity to buy, but doesn't have the allocation in his budget for that thing. So in his mind, he feels, you know what, this is the budget I've allocated for this. I'm not sure I'm ready to go beyond it. It is your power as a salesperson to be able to ask questions and educate, such that he now realizes that he's not making an informed decision to set aside this amount of money for this, set aside this amount of budget for this transaction. Therefore, he would understand that he needs to raise his budgets. And you can only get someone to raise their budgets. Hey, Labash. You can only get someone to raise their budgets through education. Through education. So to educate means walk them through from the beginning to the end. Why is it this way? Answer all the questions. Why? How? What? When? Then you've educated. When you answer all those questions, you will know that the prospect understands the basis upon which your pricing is the way it is, and the basis upon which he has to go to increase his budgets. Now, price-sensitive buyers, you can't sell to all price-sensitive buyers, right? Because not everybody can increase their budgets. There are people who, obviously, they've gone to their max. They can't afford to go beyond this. Fine. Nothing we can do. You can't help somebody who doesn't have the resources to buy. But don't just assume that because somebody is pushing back and talking about budget constraints, it automatically means that he doesn't have the finances to buy. It may not be about the finances now. It may just be what he has allocated. And how would you know? Is by educating. So spend more time educating than you do just trying to get the person to make a buying decision. Show them how. Educate them. And they will trust you and know that you're the expert that they can rely on. The second thing that makes people price sensitive is, like I said, is negotiation. They just want a good deal. Therefore, position the value, position the pricing in such a way that you always give your prospects room to negotiate. If you know that you can't go below a certain amount, maybe 10 million, you can't go below 10 million for whatever this service product is, then you can't give the price as 10 million and fix it there. You want to move the price to a much higher point. See, when you're negotiating and your lowest price is 10 million, you should think of a price slightly above 10 million, then another price above that price. That's like a third layer. So let's say 10 million, 12 million, 14 million. So maybe your first asking price is 14. I'm just saying, for example, you negotiate and you push down. He pumps down all the way. You negotiate back and forth and it comes down to 12, right? And you've come down to 12. And for some reason, he decides to engage other decision makers, or maybe there are several contexts, right? Maybe he's engaging other decision makers, or maybe he comes back another day and says, sorry, he can't go ahead again because he was hoping he could pay this amount, or maybe you have to get some approval. At whatever the case may be, if you move from 14, for example, to 12, and that's where you're hovering around, he comes back again at any point in time for another thing, you can always drop to maybe an 11. But you notice that you didn't even touch the 10. That's how you negotiate. So because people are price sensitive and they want to always negotiate, you spend time, when you're engaging somebody who wants to negotiate aggressively, spend time emphasizing the value. That's why you should have asked a lot of questions. Emphasize the value. Talk about the value so much so that the value is elevated in the prospect's mind. And with that, automatically, when you mention that price, the third layer, like I showed you, first, second, third, at the third layer, you mention that price, he feels like, whoa, wow, wow. He knows that it may be high for him, but he's still looking at the value. It's too good. Make the value too good. And one sure way you can make it too good, ladies and gentlemen, ask questions and educate your prospects today. Thanks for watching this video. I want to encourage you to put this to work. Spend time educating. And you see, you can't educate if you don't understand. With all that get understanding. Understand what you're selling. Understand the product. Don't be afraid to ask your colleagues questions. Don't be afraid to ask your bosses questions. Anything that's not clear in your mind, it will not be clear in your mouth. When you're communicating it will not go to the person in the simplest form. The proof of understanding is simplicity of communication. So can you communicate in such a way that it is so simple for the person to understand? Yes, you can. And you will the moment you understand it and you see it clearly as well. If you haven't liked the video, please share the video with others. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe here. If you haven't watched the next video, you can watch the next video here as well. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'll talk to you soon.